Might as well get used to it. You're in swamp phase now. So what's going on, high speeds? You made it all the way to the last phase of Ranger School, and that's Florida phase, or swamps as we call it. This is the final phase at Ranger School that you're gonna have to get through. That's gonna determine whether or not you're gonna leave the school with a tab. I'm gonna go over everything that you can expect to see at Florida phase, and I'm gonna give you some experiences that I went through just to give you a little context to go along with it. Now, this is the 4th video of my Everything You Need to Know About Ranger School series, okay? If you haven't watched the other prior videos about Ranger School, I would suggest that you go ahead and start with the Wrap Week episode. I'll put the link right here. Also, if you've already watched those prior videos and you have made it this far, make sure, if you haven't already, that you like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos that I put out on this channel. I have a lot of good information about other things military, not just Ranger, so it will behoove you to like and subscribe. Don't forget to do that. Also, a quick plug. If you haven't checked it out already, make sure you go and check out our 13-week Ranger School fitness program. It's the best Ranger School fitness program you're gonna find out there that'll get you ready for the school physically. All right, I'm gonna drop a link for that in the description. Go check it out. All right, guys, so let's talk about Florida phase. So every phase in Ranger School is different, if you haven't figured that out by now. Every phase has its own unique flavor. All right, back in Darby, you're getting through, you know, Wrap Week, you're getting through the basics of patrolling in a basic woodland type setting. In mountains, you're amping up the terrain, going through some, you know, hard mountainous type terrain. You're learning about rope bridges, dealing with bad weather, a serious lack of calories, so on and so forth. The theme here in Florida is dealing with swamp-like terrain, dealing with advanced rope bridges, how to get through water safely or over water safely, and how to use the Zodiac transportation boats. What you'll also notice as you make your way through Ranger School is that it kind of follows the crawl, walk, run way of training, way of thinking that the Army uses, where Darby is sort of like the crawl phase, mountain is the walk, and Florida is an all-out run. And sometimes it's a sprint. So understanding that concept, there's going to be a lot more expectation of you as a trained up Ranger student in Florida phase. You're going to be expected to, without a doubt, understand the basics of patrolling, how to manage and lead a platoon at this point, how to conduct a raid, how to conduct an ambush. You shouldn't have any issues getting through the basics with all those things by this point. In fact, they're actually going to give you a lot more leeway when it comes to doing those operations. In Florida phase, the RIs are a lot more hands-off. They kind of put aside all the yelling, they put aside the pen and paper for a minute, and they let you decide your own fate. They're not going to be as critical on you as far as the grading goes. You know, they're not going to really be so by the book, so strict, okay? They're really just looking for whether or not the mission was a success or if it was a failure. They want to see during Florida phase that you've taken everything you've learned so far, you understand it, and that you can implement it in the way that needs to be implemented, and that you can make adjustments on your own that you see as necessary that would be beneficial to mission accomplishment. So in different words, they're going to absolutely give you enough rope to hang yourself with. It's up to you to take all the knowledge that you've learned so far and make sure you end with a successful mission. Let's talk about the terrain that you can expect in swamps. Maybe something a little bit like this. Look, in all reality, it's gonna really depend on what time of the year you end up in Florida phase. All right, I was a winter ranger, so it was really, really cold for me when I ended up in Florida. You'd be surprised, Florida can get really cold. In fact, I, at times, was more cold in Florida than I was in mountains during the winter. There was even a time when I woke up in a patrol base after it had rained, and I was just getting rained on for the hour of sleep that I got that night. I woke up and my boots were frozen together. I actually had to kick my boots against each other to like knock them off each other because they were frozen together from the rain and the ice. So the weather's no joke, even in Florida phase. But with that being said, during the winter, you know, we didn't have any snow or anything like that. There was a lot less water in the swampy areas that you'll be expected to traverse through when you make your movements to objective. I'm sure you've heard the stories where you'll go through swamps that are, you know, up to your shoulders at times. Well, that was very limited for us because it was wintertime. There just wasn't as much precipitation during that time period, and the RIs made a point to kind of maneuver us around some of those higher level swampy areas, because if we were to go through that, we would have no doubt died from hypothermia. Okay, but make no mistake about it, you will still go through water. I definitely remember going through some portions that was up to my waist, and being extremely cold afterwards, trying to dry off as you continue to conduct your missions. If you end up going in the summer or the springtime, you can expect to absolutely travel through the highest levels of those swampy areas. The RIs will make sure of it. And you can also expect a lot of chafing, a lot of bugs. You get the idea. Severe discomfort in Florida phase. I don't care what time of the year you go. You're gonna be cold, you're gonna be wet, you're gonna be just very uncomfortable and the most chafed that you have ever been in your life. Now, when you first get to Florida, it's just like any other phase. You know, the first portion of it, the first week or so, is going to be dedicated to techniques, going over, you know, how they want to see op orders brief, which is going to be, again, to an even higher standard. So take it seriously. But like I said, you got to be careful because the RIs are going to seem a lot more hands off. They're going to just seem a little cooler, you know what I mean? But don't take that as a time to relax or a time to take things less seriously. That's just them seeing if you actually have the knowledge and if you're serious enough to earn the tab. During that first week of techniques, you'll be pretty well fed. I want to say you'll go to the chow hall like once a day, maybe even twice a day. I can't really remember, but at least once or twice a day, you'll get an MRE, one of the meals. You'll get a decent amount of sleep, like, you know, 6 or so hours, which is pretty good for Ranger. They're really prepping you and making sure that you're good to go for that 10-day long field exercise. Okay, because by the time you get to Florida, even if you haven't recycled yet, you're extremely beat down. Your body has just had it. You kind of need a little bit of recoup in order to survive what's ahead of you in Florida. So you'll go through techniques, you'll take it very seriously, and you'll learn a couple new things, and you'll understand what's expected of you before you head off to your 10-day field exercise out in the swamps. Now, in my experience, the leadership positions were less frequent. The missions were longer, it seemed like. It seemed like you were in leadership almost twice as long as you were in any other phase. So because of that, there was limited opportunities for you to try to get your go again if you didn't get a go the first time. I mean, there was even guys that only got one shot and ended up getting a no-go for that entire 10-day field exercise and had to recycle Florida. I only had one shot. I'll tell you a little bit about how my mission went. It was day 3, if I remember correctly. I was in the platoon sergeant role, and I actually had mixed feelings about my look. I just wasn't really sure if it was good enough or not. But anyway, I'll hit the highlights for you. So we had a very long movement. I want to say it was like maybe like 7 or 8 clicks, something like that. It was something really long. We did go through the swamps. We had multiple stops to check on everybody. There was one stop before a major LDA where we stopped, consolidated, and then crossed the LDA appropriately. But as we crossed that LDA, you know, being the platoon sergeant, I was up there checking the count as guys were running through the checkpoint. Well, my count was off when the last guy came through the checkpoint, and the RI was standing right there. That was like a deliberate look to see a platoon sergeant's doing the right thing. He saw that the count was off, and right there I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a no-go for me. The count's off, what the hell? But instead of just accepting it and just going along with it, if you guys ever seen like Surviving the Cut, that's what happened to that guy, I think in like mountains or something. He just let it go and he ended up getting a no-go. I didn't accept it. I ran up to the PL who was in charge at the time, and I said, hey, stop the patrol, stop everything. We need to get another count. And we did, and then at that time, the count was correct. So I don't know if like a guy went around the checkpoint, which is probably what happened, but we got the right count, no big deal. The RI saw that, and he said that was great that I did that afterwards. So if you ever don't get the right count, just stop the patrol and get the right count, okay? We got moving, got to the ORP. Before we actually conducted the raid, the PL talked to me and the other squad leaders about how the operation was going to go, how he wanted it conducted, and he was doing something a little different. He wanted 2 assault squads to be simultaneously assaulting the objective online, okay? kind of like bounding, using a bounding technique, but in squads. So it was a little different, it was a little unconventional, and it made me a little worried. And he wanted them controlled, not by the squad leaders, but he was gonna control one from the rear, and I was gonna control the movement of one from the rear. And it was a little weird. You know, I wanted complete oversight of the entire platoon, not just one squad. But we went with it, conducted the raid, and the movements were great. You know, we were moving on line, moving towards the objective. The support by fire was doing their job great. It sounded like the machine guns were talking really good. But the problem was we lost radio comms when they were supposed to shift fire. And I knew that because I wasn't getting confirmation calls. I had to make a quick decision right then and there as a platoon sergeant. I knew that if we kept moving forward without comms from the support by fire because of where the position was and they couldn't really see us very well, that we were absolutely gonna have friendly fire and fratricide if we continued on that way. So I sprinted to the squad leader, told him to take charge. It's his responsibility to continue moving forward with the squad during the assault. And I sprinted with my medic all the way to the support by fire position and told them to stop. Told them to stop firing completely. And apparently we made it just in time so that there wasn't fratricide, okay? But of course that made me extremely nervous because you even speak the word fratricide in Ranger School and you get a no-go, you know? So like, I was super nervous about that. Turned support by fire off, ran back to the objective and continued my job as the platoon sergeant, you know, dealing with medical issues, medevac, so on and so forth. By the time the mission was complete, we had our AAR, and the RI seemed to me, as he was giving the AAR, that he appreciated what I did as platoon sergeant. He brought up that fratricide was imminent, and he said that what I did was exactly what you'd expect a platoon sergeant to do in real life. That's what needs to happen, even though your plan should have been better. And that's really what made me like worry about it. He's like, plan should have been better, but at least you figured it out. That was my, we weren't told if we got go or no goes. When I got my own personal AR later, he still left it kind of, you know, swaying one way or the other. I didn't feel like I had a go, definitely, and I didn't really feel like I had a no-go, definitely. I was like left in the dark for the next 7 days, seeing if I was gonna get a look or not, and I never did. I only had the one look, and lo and behold, I got my go, so thank God for that. But like I said before, plenty of guys had one look, never got another look, and didn't get a go in Florida phase. So you have to be careful. But with that all being said, obviously that mission wasn't perfect. There was a lot of like discrepancies, but I worked through it personally during my leadership role, made sure that I worked through those issues, understood that this should have been different, but I made do with what I had, and overall the mission was a success. So that's kind of what they're looking for in Florida, okay? As long as the mission is a success and you during your leadership position didn't fail at your specific position and you actually contributed to the success of the mission. Oh, fuck me. Fucking horsefly just bit me, man. Horsefly got me. Look, I'm bleeding right there. As long as the mission was a success and you as the leader in your specific leadership position didn't cause any problems that would have contradicted that success, or you made sure and actually contributed to the success itself, you're gonna get a go in Florida phase, okay? Overall, the 10-day FTX is pretty grueling. You'll get extremely minimal sleep. This will be the phase where you really just don't get any sleep. You thought you didn't get sleep before, but Florida, like, you're lucky to get 30 minutes of sleep if you even sleep that night. They'll have you set up patrol bases every night if you don't do a mission all the way through the night. It depends on you how long it takes to do the missions, but the movements are extremely spread out. The terrain is pretty flat, but it's really thick, so you're moving really slow. Now typically what they'll do is they'll put somebody in charge of leadership during the middle of the day and at the end of the night, okay? So the middle of the day you'll take over whatever the guy at the end of the night did, and you actually complete the mission. The end of the night will set up a patrol base, be responsible for SI, security, all that stuff, and brief the op order for the next mission. And a lot of times it won't be uncommon to only have one mission during the day, but they're really going for 2 missions a day. And again, that's either a raid or an ambush, just depending on your look. You'll make major movements that will take hours through like really thick brush, swampland. You'll be wet pretty much the entire time. But again, this is no time to slack off. Take everything seriously, because this is the phase that's going to decide on whether or not you're leaving Ranger School with a tab. Okay, so you can either leave Florida phase with a tab, or you can do it again and hope to get your tab the next time. Now, on the final day of this field problem, this 10-day field problem, you'll end up on the infamous Santa Rosa Island, right? And that's like the final mission. Now, in my class, it seemed like they were giving all the guys that really needed a second look this final opportunity to earn their go at Santa Rosa Island, which is like one of the hardest places to get a go on. Mainly because everybody is so tired. The terrain is really open. It's hard to use any sort of concealment or cover, and everybody's just beat to shit. The way that mission will go is that the leaders will be in charge of conducting a movement with Zodiac boats, and that movement will begin from a coastline that's a few miles down the road from Camp Rudder. You'll either paddle, or you'll get lucky and get the motorboats. We had the paddles. I don't know where these motorboats came from, but we had the paddles, and I remember that that paddle all the way from the coastline to Santa Rosa Island just took forever. But eventually you'll get there, and the whole movement will be considered tactical. As soon as you land on Santa Rosa Island, you will immediately start that mission. And I'll leave it from there, because it really all depends on what the leaders, how they plan that mission to go, how you're going to conduct the mission. But needless to say, it's going to be a pretty tough final mission, but it's also going to feel really good because you know it's the last mission. You'll get done with Santa Rosa Island, and you'll make your way back to Camp Rudder to find out whether or not you got your go or not. And the end of Florida phase is pretty cool, especially if you get a go. They do this 10,000 calorie day where they feed you like tons of food. The wives and the FRG come out and they have all this food for you, all this fresh baked goods that they've made for you, and you just eat more than you've ever eaten in your life, enough to make you want to throw up or shit yourself, and you'll just be fat and happy regardless on whether you gotta go or a no-go. If you get a no-go, then unfortunately you'll recycle Florida and you'll do it all over again. But don't let that discourage you, just make it happen. If you get your go, then thank the Ranger gods. You get to make your way back to Camp Darby and get ready for graduation and put that tab on your shoulder. You've done it, man. Great job. So quick review, some key points on Florida phase. Make sure to keep taking things seriously. Don't get hung up on the details. Get ready to be more tired than you've ever been throughout your time at Ranger School. Continue to lean on your buddies and make sure that you get through the phase together as a team. And just do your best to get your go on the first shot, because you might not have another one. That's it, man. You can totally do this. Ranger School is kind of like a mythical school of the Army. It's known as being the hardest training that the military has to offer. But with all that being said, it doesn't mean that it's something that you can't do, okay? You can absolutely go out there and complete Ranger School. You just got to put it in the heart, put it in the soul, and make shit happen, all right? If any of you out there are watching this and have already gone through Florida and have some tips for everybody, please don't hesitate to go ahead and drop that in the comments for everybody to see. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on my other future videos. Be on the lookout for another video that I plan on making, which is going to talk about the graduation of Ranger School, how that's going to look, and also how you can start recovering from the school itself physically and mentally on the back end of the school, all right? Besides that, I don't have anything else for you, and I'll see you on the next one.